While the DA faced a barrage of criticism after withdrawing from the national dialogue, they may have pulled off a piece of strategic genius that outsmarted us all. Here's why. For people who fashion themselves as political enthusiasts, such as those who follow podcasts on a regular basis or read the news daily, they may feel tired of the GNU. They may also feel that the time has come to disband the GNU due to a lack of progress. If you happen to be one of these people, I have a very important message for you, and that is that you are in the minority. We can see this through data. Now, if we take a look at the Social Research Foundation's latest report on the GNU, we see that back in September 2024, around 60% of all voters felt that the GNU was performing well. Now, this figure seems to have declined, and in February 2025, when they updated their findings, they found that the approval ratings of the GNU slipped to just below 50%. Although this is, of course, a decline, it's not yet a grand decline that really seems to threaten the popularity of the GNU at large. If we look at what the Institute of Race Relations has reported on the GNU approval in September and October 2024, they found that around 51.8% of registered voters approved of the GNU with the DA. If we look at how this figure has progressed over time, as of the latest data reported in April of this year, support for the GNU in its current format has declined by 3.3 percentage points to 48.5%. What these studies show us is that although, yes, large-scale public approval is declining, it's very gradual. It's not yet happening at a rate that would signal a widespread disapproval of the GNU. For that reason, it makes sense that the DA may want to hold off on withdrawing from the GNU, especially since other parties may use their withdrawal as a way to paint them as a divisive party that is looking to bring an end to national unity. Moving on to the second reason why not withdrawing from the GNU is the right call. That is positive publicity. So, taking a look at what the GNU has achieved so far, it's safe to assume that the DA ministers in cabinet appear to be outperforming their ANC counterparts, as well as certain other ministers from other GNU parties. One example is Dr. Leon Schreiber, the Minister of Home Affairs. Now, back in January, the DA celebrated quite a big achievement in the Department of Home Affairs. They released a press statement celebrating a staggering 215% increase in interceptions in illegal border crossings. Now, this is a massive achievement for the DA, especially since there's another party who's a very close rival of theirs, namely the Patriotic Alliance, who runs heavily on the platform of stopping illegal immigration. Should the DA be able to keep such numbers up, it may serve them very well in future elections to come. Now it's time to move on to the third and possibly most important reason why the DA is right not to pull out of the GNU at this time. Now, I cannot believe how many people seem to have the wrong idea about what would happen if they do pull out. Many people I speak to seem to be of the opinion that if the DA withdraw from the GNU, that will collapse the government and we'll get back to elections. This is wrong. If the DA does decide to withdraw from the GNU, the ANC has two logical paths forward. The first option would be to consult with other parties and see if there are other partners who are willing to build a coalition that will give them a majority of parliamentary control, so over 50%. Now, we do know that the MK is very much opposed to working with the ANC, or as they call it, the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa. As for the EFF, it's very difficult to know which way they swing. On one hand, they seem to oppose the ANC heavily, and on the other hand, they seem to oppose the DA and say things like, if the DA doesn't like what the ANC is doing, why not withdraw from the GNU? Now, they could be saying this because they want to bring down the ANC government, or because they want the DA out and to replace them in the GNU instead. Either way, the ANC could consult with these parties and hope to rebuild a majority government. If not, they're left with a pretty ugly scenario, which would require them to consult with a broad spectrum of really small parties to build what would most likely be a fragile and unsustainable coalition. Now, we've seen this before, particularly on the local level, and particularly in the major metros such as Johannesburg, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Ekurhuleni. In fact, one of the big risks of dealing with so many small parties is the fact that the ANC will need to curry favor with them. And this could probably result in quite a few dodgy deals. Look at the city of Johannesburg, for example, where a mayor from an incredibly tiny party, Al Jamaa, was elected. Now, this makes no sense, especially since Al Jamaa had so little of the vote and clearly does not represent the overwhelming will of the people. Now, if the ANC is going to make a paper-thin coalition with many partners, there's a very big risk of this sort of politicking recurring on the national level. The second option that the ANC would have is to govern as a minority government. This is something similar to what's happening in Gauteng. This will also be quite difficult for the ANC because for every single bill that needs to be passed, they will have to have a confidence and supply agreement with potential partners every single time. So ultimately, if the DA does decide to withdraw from the GNU, it will lead to political instability. However, there is a solution that would see the DA withdraw from the GNU and cause a new snap election. And that is a motion of no confidence. Federal chairperson of the DA, Helen Zille, said something really interesting during the press briefing where the DA decided to withdraw from the national dialogue. She explained, "I like to live by the 3 strikes and you are out." So this is the second big strike. And believe me, we discussed at length about a motion of no confidence in the president. If a motion of no confidence is brought to the table and it passes, this would mean that the president would be removed from office and most likely trigger a new election. In order for this motion to pass, a simple majority of 51% of the members of National Assembly will need to support it. Zille hasn't spoken too much about this idea since the announcement, but one thing that she did mention is that she expects that the DA will be able to gather the support it needs in order to pass this motion. What's also interesting is that she spoke about the ANC's very poor attendance record in Parliament and said that the ANC generally struggles to get all of its ministers to show up when there is actually a vote, no matter how important. And so if the DA is able to rally all of their ministers, get them to attend, as well as the MPs of their allies in this battle, a motion of no confidence may pass. However, the DA seems hesitant, and it may be because they don't feel that they have enough support at this time. Now that we've discussed why the DA is right to remain in the GNU at this time, it's time to explain why pulling out of the national dialogue was the right move. As the presidency has admitted, this national dialogue will cost over 700 million rand to the taxpayers. Now, clearly, this is a very poor way to spend money, especially in a country with as many dire issues of poverty and crime, and even education issues as South Africa has. In this sense, it makes sense for the DA to withdraw from this notion, especially since they are showing that they do not agree with this kind of spending of hard-earned taxpayer money. The problem, however, is the way that they conveyed the message. So just to remind you, the press briefing that the DA held, where they announced this measure, came after the dismissal of Deputy Minister of Trade, Andrew Whitfield. Now, of course, the DA expressed their frustration with the ANC and with Ramaphosa for firing him. And DA leader John Steenhuisen did seem to make a misstep. You see, when he announced the decision to withdraw from the national dialogue, the wording that he used and the way that he conveyed the message made it seem that the decision to withdraw from the national dialogue came as a result of the firing of Andrew Whitfield. And this leaves an open-ended question. Did the DA withdraw from the national dialogue due to the way that it's going to waste taxpayer money? Or did they do it simply as a means of spiting the ANC for the dismissal? Furthermore, it begs the question, would the DA have withdrawn from the national dialogue had Whitfield not been fired? Because of this open-ended question, the DA does seem to have made a flaw in the way that it conveyed this decision in this regard. Still, if we take a look at all of the decision-making of the DA, in my view, it seems like my analysis may be proven correct if you take a look at what the data shows. Back in the May 2024 election, the DA earned 21.81% of the vote. Since then, the Social Research Foundation has conducted 3 polls to measure the political state of play. In September 2024, the DA obtained 24% in their poll. Fast forward to February of this year, and the DA edged up a little bit higher to 25%. Then, in June, the DA edged another percentage point higher to 26%, thereby showing consistent growth. Now, if we take a look at the Institute of Race Relations and their polling, back in September and October 2024, they found that the DA seemed to have about 22.3% of the vote. So just a marginal increase from their election result. However, in April 2025, the DA's support, according to the IRR's polling, surged 30.3%, meaning that the DA overtook the ANC in polling for the first time in their history. Now, of course, polls aren't always 100% accurate. There is a margin of error, and of course, they're only surveying a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand people. However, after the election, these polls are the best source of data that we have in order to gauge the political climate. And from what we can see, the DA does seem to be doing the right thing as the electorate is concerned. But what do you think? Do you agree with my analysis? Let me know in the comment section below. Furthermore, if you enjoy this kind of content, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, this is Power and Politics.